What is up? We're going to get into ways to start changing your thoughts. You know, we win or lose on the way that we think. The battlefield is the mind. You want to be motivated? You have to make sure you're self-aware enough to understand, what are you thinking about all the time? Are you fear-based? Is everything negative, negative, negative? Do you have the habit? And I want you to get this and understand this. Do you have the habit of worrying? That's all it is. It's just a habit. Your brain knows just to go there. It's like, oh, this is what we do. We're going to do this every single day. It's like chain smoking cigarettes. It's the same thing. Just, okay, well, oh, here's a situation. Let me think about it. Let me worry. It's just a habit, guys. So what is the most powerful weapon against stress? It's having a right mindset. It's having a positive mindset. And I know that sounds cheesy. Oh, we're going to talk about positive mindsets, Jason. No, you have to understand, scientifically, it's been proven. They've done studies on this over and over and over again. People do better when they have a positive mindset when they're coming into a situation. If you have a negative mindset about something that's going to happen, more than likely, it's not going to turn out as well as if you came into that situation with a positive mindset. Here's my way that I do it. In every situation, I want to be creative. So I have to pause and ask myself, how can I be creative in this situation? Because our minds are hardwired to perform at their best, in my opinion, when we're being creative. Creation, creativity, all of those words are what the universe, and I'm going to get a little woo-woo spiritual here, but I do have a spiritual podcast where I talk about this stuff all the time. It's called Higher Density Living. So I encourage you to subscribe to that if you like this type of conversations. We also talk about aliens and all kinds of stuff. Alexander and I do. It's called Higher Density Living. You can go to higherdensityliving.com or you can go to Apple, Spotify, and see that. But we're hardwired to perform at our best when we do have a positive attitude. It's not about, and I'm going to repeat this, it's not about focusing on the problems or trying to figure out worst case scenario and then work from there. It's how do you daily manage your mindset in a way that doesn't stress you out? How do you stay creative? And I'm going to get back to this. Just as the universe expands, physics teaches us this. This is science. The universe is constantly expanding, creating more universes. That's what creation is. It's expansion, right? That's what we're made to do. We're carbon-based star beings. That's science. That's not woo-woo. That's what we're made out of. We're made out of the universe, guys. We're supposed to expand and grow and be creative. That's when we feel the best, when we're authentic to our true self and we're creating. And you know that. So why do we have this habit, this low performance habit of worrying and being negative? I think a lot of it has to do, and I'm going to remove a lot of the emotion out of it because we get emotional about this when we talk about this, but it really has nothing to do with that. All it is chemicals in your brain. All it is you have trained your brain to be a certain way. And there's one way to fix it, and that is to rewire your brain. And thank God, no matter what age you are, whether you're 20 or 80, it doesn't matter. You can rewire your brain anytime you want. I think one of the best ways to do that is to look at your daily habits. Watch, and we just had podcasts on this about time and energy. And I talked about that energy is more important than time. That you want to have a ton of energy. If you have a ton of time and you have no energy, that's going to be horrific. So I need to look first, what am I doing daily that's sapping my energy? What am I doing daily that is giving me more energy? What am I doing daily with my time? What am I wasting time on? What are some things like for me, I don't want to go to the gym. It's rare that I'm excited about going to the gym, but I go 3 or 4 times a week consistently for years now because 1, I hired a personal trainer, and number 2, because I know how it makes me feel, and I know how I do with Zoom meetings and how I respond to people and how I lead. I understand that. It's so important, guys, that you get the understanding of not taking that donut, not taking that sweet treat now, that instant gratification when you know it's going to make you feel shitty later. Now, if you're like, hey, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to have a cup of coffee and 1 donut, which is very hard for me. Donuts are my absolute favoriteest thing ever, and I can't eat 1. If there are 6 donuts laying there, I will eat all 6. I have no self-control. I do, but I do have self-control, and I shouldn't say that I have no self-control because my brain literally says, oh, there's a donut. Eat them all. And that's exactly what I do. But these are just emotional defaults. They're just patterns. Maybe it's a pattern of people-pleasing. Maybe it's a pattern of victim mentality. Maybe it's a pattern of needless worry. Maybe it's a pattern of negative self-talk. You literally talk to yourself constantly. I see people that way. So let's break these down real quick. People-pleasing. You're not living for yourself. You're not living for the best person of who you can become and who you're supposed to create in your only unique way that only you can do. Instead, you're running around being narcissistic, people-pleasing. You're like, well, how is that narcissistic? It's narcissistic because you're putting yourself first. You're basing your whole life on how these people or children or, partners, husband, wife, whatever it may be, how they feel about you determines if you're happy or not. So then you set unrealistic expectations to that other person that they never can feel because you're basing all your happiness on them. And on more important than that, you're basing all of their happiness and your happiness and relationships happiness on how you're thinking at the moment. People-pleasing is horrific. It's a horrible pattern to get into. The only way to break it is to focus on yourself. The way to break people-pleasing is to be ruthlessly selfish to the point where it looks horrific. But you got to tell those that you love this is what you're doing. Say, hey, I have people-pleased my whole life and I'm stopping it. So that means I'm going to yoga. I'm going to go get massages. I'm going to do spa treatments, whatever it may be for you. I'm going to go to the bookstore. I'm going to go out with friends, whatever it may be for you. Be extremely selfish. That'll fix that. And I'm talking selfish in a good way. But you're going to look at it as you being selfish because you're people pleased your whole life. Because you've got to create an identity outside of what people think. And the only way to do that is to get your confidence. The only way to get your confidence back is to do things that work and benefit and make you feel good, not based off of what people are thinking. Next is victim mentality. This one here is narcissistic too. This one puts you at the center of everything. So you're always a victim, and so you're first, and there's always a perpetrator. So that person, and some of you know that you have victim mentality because you are never wrong in every relationship that you've been in. They've wronged you. At work, you always get wronged. People backstab you. You can't trust anybody. The list goes on and on. So we all have that. I think I have a little bit of victim mentality. I think I have the negative self-talk, a little bit of worry, and the victim mentality. I don't think I'm into people pleasing, not anymore. I think I've worked on that one pretty good. And I'm getting less and less of the victim mentality. But how do you fix victim mentality? The number way to fix victim mentality, to me, is to understand that there's no us versus them, that we're really all one. That person has a conscious level and you have a conscious level. And your future self if it could look back 25 reincarnations from this one or 25 bodies from this one, it would laugh and say, I can't believe you were so unconscious then. So really we're not, humans are going to look back 1,000 years from now and be like, holy smokes, these humans in 2022 were primitive. They would actually grab a ball and spend billions of dollars running back and forth on this fake grass. Like what? And billions of people watched it on TV? What? And I'm not knocking sports. I'm just saying, could you imagine that? Or what they eat food that hurts their systems and they like it? Like, why would they poison themselves? So you could just imagine this. So just think about that. Thousands of years from now, what would a human look at you, or how would you look at yourself if you're evolved with a higher consciousness? So some people have lower consciousness. They're in a different, to me, this is how I view it. They're just in a different level of consciousness. So if they have a lower level of consciousness because they're in a different catalyst or learning stage in this moment, guess what's going to happen? They're going to backstab people. They're going to murder people. That's low conscious people. They're going to do horrific things, what we view as horrific things, but that's them in that moment learning. And yeah, people can go against your free will, 100%. But at the end of the day, you have to look at it and say, I'm one. I'm one with them. So, and the things that I am playing victim on, usually are the things that I fear. Whether I fear that I may become those, or I am those things, or I fear that things that can happen to me. Because I'm the center of the universe as a victim, and everything else revolves around me in a fear-based scenario. Hope you get that. And so the way to fix that is to recognize that. You have to recognize it and say, and affirmations are really good on this one. Oh, I'm playing the victim right now. Oh, I'm getting emotional right now. And I'm doing the us versus them. When instead of being passive aggressive, I should just go have a conversation with them and let them know how I feel. Don't tell them about the victim stuff. Of course not. But you could sit there and say, hey, this is the way I'm feeling right now. This isn't truth. This is just the way I feel. That's a great way to start, especially in relationships, guys. Start off with that. Hey, Susan, I just want to let you know this is the way I'm feeling right now. And it may not be true or not. Can you kind of enlighten me? And they may tell you the truth, they may not. But that's on them, not on you. You shared the truth, right? Okay. Needless worry. I used to be really bad. In my 20s, I would just worry constantly, all the time about everything. I feel like I heard a number one jiu-jitsu coach, and he talked about this. He talked about confidence. And he says, if we train so much to the point, they were training and he has these elite jiu-jitsu athletes that, and it doesn't matter if it's jiu-jitsu, so guys, don't tune me out when you're listening to this. The principle is amazing. And they're number one in the world. And he trains 7 days a week. No breaks for Christmas, none of that. 7 days a week. That's the dedication you got to have if you want to be number one in the world. That's his philosophy on that. We can argue about that all day long, but it doesn't matter. He creates number one jiu-jitsu players, athletes. And he said, I don't think confidence is like something mental. He goes, I think it's solely that you have done this thing physically on the jiu-jitsu mat so much that you can remove the hype and the lights and everything else in the crowd, and you can just do what you normally do because you're so confident in doing that. And if I give you opponents that are going to be equal when we're training, if I give you opponents that are going to be equal to who you would be battling in a jiu-jitsu tournament, then there should be no need to worry. There should be a level of confidence that's there. And I think this is really a confidence problem when we worry. And one is worry is a habit. It's really easy. It's like eating junk food. So you need to tell your brain that. Say, when I worry, it's like junk food. And you have to catch yourself with affirmation. Oh, that's me worrying. I need to stop this right now. And listen to a song or do something else. You have to literally shift yourself away. Drink some water. You need to create like a habit that is opposite of the worrying to stop yourself. Whatever it may be. Just say, oh, I'm worrying right now. And what I'm worrying about, I'm making up stories that are probably not real. Majority of the time, the things we worry about don't come about, right? Next is negative self-talk. This is one I'm still working on. probably heaviest thing that I have to work on. Negative self-talk for me is very, very hard to deal with because I feel like my brain goes there instantly. I like people. I like interacting with people, but I'm always doing the us versus them in the sense of I'm always looking at people as inherently selfish. So what are they coming to me for? Usually if somebody's going to interrupt my day, they're wanting something. So instead of it being a positive thing in how I can serve and help, I tend to look at it in a way of somebody's taking something from me. So this is scarcity mentality, first of all. So that's totally wrong. So I have to understand abundance. I have all the time in the world. I'm here to help people. I'm here to serve people. That's what true love is, right? And Jesus gave us that example of true selfless love in serving others. Not to the point where you're losing yourself or people-pleasing. Your attitude has to be right. But having this negative self-talk, even when I'm serving somebody or helping somebody, I can tend to have negative self-talks about it. That's being narcissistic because it's making it about me in the situation. It should be about the other person, right? And what I'm doing and how I'm helping them. And I can't be creative when I have negative self-talk because I'm just focused on the negative. I'm not focused on how I can be creative in loving them, how I can be creative in helping them. So I recognize this, but this is when I deal with daily. And for me, it's really simple. It's just I use a quick affirmation as that's not real. And you can use that for everything, but I'm like, that's not real. That negative self-talk right now is not real. That's just a negative thought. It's not real. And that tends to help me a lot. It kind of stops the pattern. And I've gotten into a habit, because you can get in a habit of when my brain is pretty good now about recognizing self-talk. And so, these faulty patterns that we have, I think a lot of times they're just patterns and habits, but that they're holding you back. And you know that for your success. I think a really good book to read is High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard, Burchard. But if you type in High Performance Habits, you can get it on Kindle or whatever. It's everywhere. It was a New York Times bestselling. It's how extraordinary people become that way. But it's just understanding clarity, energy, necessity, productivity, influence, courage. It's just showing you the daily habits that high performance people have done. And it's doing things that you love to do, doing things that you can be creative in. It's not a stress or pressure book or I have to do more. You don't have to do more. You just have to do things that are in alignment, and those turn into more because it's abundance and you're operating in your gifts and ability. So I encourage you guys, make sure you understand that you are not defunct. There's not a problem with your brain. You're like every other human, all billions of us here. You just have a habit. That's all it is. Don't put any emotion to it. It's just a habit. These negative thoughts, the victim mentality, whatever it may be, it's just a habit that your brain uses to try. It's your ego trying to protect yourself. We don't have cheetahs chasing us down on the savannah anymore. So we use these things in our comfort because our brain has to have, our ego wants to protect and worry about something and keep us, our shadow self. So this is the way it does it. It's extremely creative. Your ego is extremely creative in the way that it loves to be able to take over and loves to be able to say, you need me. You need to withdraw right now and just be by yourself and hide and make it all about you right now. But that leads to depression. It leads to having no friends. It leads to, laying on the couch and watching Netflix or drinking alcohol to space out or whatever a vice may be. So I encourage you guys, don't get emotional about it. It's just a habit. Tell yourself, this is just a habit. I'm going to break it. It's not real. And you'll begin to almost smile. And some of you are doing that. I'm smiling right now just thinking about it. When I say, this is not me. This is just an emotion that my brain has a habit of doing. Just a couple pumps in a chemical receptor. That's all it is. It's nothing more. You're not broken. You can fix this. And over time, you'll be shocked at the way that you can be creative, at the way that you can love, and at the way that you can perform daily.
you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share. And go to abqpodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.